Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining our first webinar of 2023. This is our third year now, started 2021, hopefully helping people move to the UK from all over the world. We're going to start off with just a few bits for myself, first of all, in how we're going to work. Then Andrew's going to come in with some stats and introduce himself, and then myself afterwards as well. We'll try and have a Q&A at the end. We're quite aware that it's obviously different timeframes for a lot of people. We've got people from South Africa a couple of hours ahead, somebody from Australia, so they're way ahead. So hopefully there's enough for everybody, but please ask any questions you want into the chat group as well. Anybody else needs to come in, I'll try to add them in as and when I can, into the room, but hopefully there's nothing else to worry too much about. We've literally spoken to hundreds of people now over the webinars and helped tens of hundreds of people over the years as well, between myself and Andrew. So we've had various different webinars in the last couple of years, from school applications, removals, logistics, move cubes, containers, passport, visa control, anything at all. So if anybody's got anything they particularly like, something they'd want to speak about like that, please let us know. We can try and do one for you this year. That's not a problem. Individually, you can message us. Obviously at the end we have like a Q&A, but we have the names and addresses for us to be in contact as well. Generally Andrew looks after the north of England and I look after the south of England. That's generally how it works. So I'm going to pass you across to Andrew now to start the ball rolling. You're on mute, Andrew.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hi everyone. Lovely to happy new year to everyone, and I hope everyone finds it useful. Like Mark said, welcome any questions. If we don't know the answers, we're pretty sure we know people who do, whether it's pets or moving or schooling. So yeah, we're open. Just a quick one on what we do is we effectively work for the people moving to the UK. So I've been doing this for over 10 years now, as a business, and over 14 years. I was doing it for 4 years before. It has got tougher, and that's why we're just looking at the statistics. So we're just going to go over a few. Basically, the reason behind, well, over the last 7 years, a lot of the private landlords have sold up. So they're taking advantage of the strong sales market. There's also higher taxes kind of kicked in as well. So it's about 56% down on what it was 4 or 5 years ago for rental options. So with that, there's been a lot more demand from tenants because of increased house prices pushing people into rentals, and less supply on the rental side because of previous landlords selling up. So if you've been watching it for any length, you'll have seen price rises go up a bit. The Northwest, where we're based, Manchester, went up 12.2% over a year. And down south, it went up 17% in London. So it's around about £117 a month. The good news, the forecast for this year is it's going to calm down. That's all the predictions from all the property experts. So we kind of track Rightmove, Zoopla, Savills, who will give forecasts, and they're generally quite accurate. So although it's still quite competitive now, predictions are by March, it should slow a little bit. So yeah, that's the good news. On average, people are spending about 37% of their income on the rental. So if, for example, you're moving over and you're on 60,000, for example, on average, the rental will roughly be 20,000. So that's just a ballpark figure. Worried about affordability, stuff like that as well. So any questions on areas, again, stats, we're happy to share. I'll put on the chat where we found all the data, and I'll hand back to Mark now, who'll do a brief intro on who he is and what he does.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so a bit about myself. I've been in the property business for a long time, as you can all see from my grey hair. So started in 1986 and was in the estate agency for 21 years. For the last 14, 15 years, I've been in corporate relocation. So you can see my timeline on the left-hand side. Corporate relocation from 2007 right up until 2023. I've been a landlord for 23 years now, I think, something like that, 24 years now, tenant on and off for the last 10, 12 years as well. And I've also run a lettings department of 250 properties. So that was great for me because it gave me the background knowledge that I didn't have before. So that when we do the property finding and home buying searches for people, it helps us so much more because we have the inside knowledge of what an estate agent wouldn't ask you, what we can say, what we shouldn't say, when to say it, when not to say it, because you have to be so tactical. It's so tough out there, as a lot of you would know if you've already been looking for properties as well. It's super tough in here, let alone if you're coming from another country. Super tough. So I've got Zanska, my lovely, wonderful virtual assistant based in Cape Town, handles any inquiries in South Africa. But most of the time we're dealing with people through coming to England. We tend to try to work with people who need to move in the next month to 2 to 3 months straight away. We talk to people all the time. I've got a client who just signed up with me this week that I've been dealing with since March 2021. So whenever people are ready to move, it's fine. It's all just cyclical. When people move along, when people are needing to want to come here, but it depends on the jobs, schools, senior staffers, younger staffers, moving with young children, no children, pets, etc. Pets is a real, I'm not saying problem, it's a difficulty for a lot of people. A lot of people have pets, and during lockdown, a lot more people got pets as well, obviously. So I think it's something like over 60% of people have a pet. Andrew's our stat man, so he probably can confirm or deny that, but it's higher than 50%, I think, for sure. That we're waiting for. So it's very tough when there's a choice with the landlords. They have so much choice with tenants coming in, so many people asking so many different things from them, and if they have pets, there's the law is supposed to be changing this year that will not prejudice against pets, but there will be to a degree something that we've got to worry about. But anyway, we keep pushing, trying on. So I'll hand you back to Andrew to tell you a little bit more about Andrew himself.
Thanks, Mark. I've got a few years on, Mark. Still grey, still a little bit round from the stress of property finding, but yeah, all good other than that. So I bought my first property back in 2004. Always been interested in property. I've got a degree in commercial property development, and then I invest personally in kind of a couple of years. So I've always been a landlord. So we kind of get that understanding of working for the client, but also working as a landlord. So for us, you need to pitch yourself as why you're the best person for the landlord's property, because that is normally the biggest, for the landlord, that's normally the biggest investment they will ever make. So they want to know whoever they're putting in is the best person. And at the minute, they will receive 6, 7, 8 applications for every property. We kind of tweak it, myself and Mark, through trial and error. There's no perfect answer because it depends on the landlord, it depends on the agent. We've got loads of resources which I'm happy to share as well. So like a pet CV, that's just a brief of, I've got a lady moving with 3 big dogs at the minute. And it's like, look, we need to know, if you're moving with pets, it's going to be difficult. So we need to know more, and we need to build a bit of a profile for your pet, not just yourself, but also your pets, to be reassured the property will be looked after, or to reassure the landlord. We also do these almost a property CV now. So we build out effectively all about you. So I'm moving from South Africa. I'm into football and tennis. I'm a previous homeowner. So I look after the property with a homeowner mentality. So it's all these little kind of tricks, I suppose, we've learned over 10, 15, 20 years in the industry to present to the agent or the landlord to put us ahead of everyone else who's applying for the properties. So we don't always get the first one, but we keep going until we do. So I think that's the aim of the game. So yeah, we get employed by the clients with a view of trying to, well, we're normally their eyes and ears in the UK. And then we will effectively try and save them money by having the property ready for their arrival. So we had a client, we took the property on the 30th of December. He arrived on the 10th of January, mainly because of flight costs. So they normally come 2-3 days after, but we were able to take this property and set it up for him. We've actually done a video on YouTube as well, which I can put the link onto. So we'll find the property, negotiate all the tenancy terms, set up the move-in, check the property over, and we tend to, if possible, move in kind of welcome kind of household goods, furniture if possible, so everything's kind of moving ready for arrival. So that's where we come in and help. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a bit of a roller coaster every time, but yeah, it's a valuable service, we believe, and hopefully it's of interest to people. But if not, any questions are welcome, and we're happy to answer as well. Cheers, Mark.
No worries. I've got another case study like you just mentioned again as well. Might be worth just going through where this isn't always happens like this, obviously, but I had a guy that approached me, I think last March it was, and so I'm just letting somebody else back into the room again. And he was looking for a property in the Surrey area. I think 2 dogs, 2 children, starting a new job, so quite stressful. He's on his own first of all coming over. We spoke in March, introduced him to a couple of people. We arrived in May, said, I've arrived now, Mark, I'm looking to find a property, but I want to find it myself. Said, that's fine, no problem at all. Didn't need to tell me about that, but that's okay, that's fine. Feel free. After 3 weeks, he emailed me and pretty much said, I give up. It's too difficult. I can't find it. I keep offering on things and lose properties, etc. It's so difficult. What am I doing wrong? You know, please help me, kind of thing. This is on the Monday. And I said to him, I said, look, and he told me that he had other properties viewed up to lined up to view on the Thursday and the Friday. And I just said, look, I don't want to try and help you now straight away and just come into it halfway and be the glory person that sort of solves it straight away. I want you've done a lot of work yourself. So see how these houses go on Thursday, Friday. Call me if you like, just to show me, just talk it through if you want to, just to give my professional opinion if you like. And then that's it. Monday morning came around, didn't hear anything from him. So I thought, he's obviously found a property. Great, no problem. The afternoon he called me and said, Mark, it's happened again. I've lost another property. Please, can you help me? Please, can you help me? So we started the ball rolling. We approached some of the same agents he was speaking to as well, but we've dealt with them for over a decade, some 20, 30 years, myself and Andrew. So we have a good relationship with them. It's sometimes how you say it, not how you say it, not what you don't say. We're not engineers, we're not, accountants, etc. All different professions you might have. We can all do the job effectively, but it's knowing we've done this between us, for me for 36 years, Andrew for 15, 20 years. So together we've got a lot of experience there. And it's how you approach with the estate agents, because we have to push them really quite hard, but not too hard over the line. But we know where we can push them to the line on the side, because it's very, very regulated lettings. If you don't know this, you probably do. Very, very heavily regulated. I don't know what they can and can't do. So we're there to try and help everybody with any advice at all, be it moving in with the logistics or your mobiles or your council tax or gas, water, electricity. We can do that. We don't have Eskom here for those South Africans in the group. You'll be pleased to hear. If you're in Joburg, the load shedding you're getting is just unbelievable, incredible. So thank you for your time. If you're calling from Joburg at the moment, it's horrific. It really is. So we don't have problems like that. I'll give an example of the power cut we had, which you will laugh, probably, hopefully. We had a power cut in November. We had a letter 3 weeks before that power cut saying we're going to have a power cut. I can't say any more than that. It's the English apologising for being apologetic as usual. So it was just, yeah, very, very unusual. But for those guys suffering, it is very, very tough. So look, we're here to answer any questions you have for me or Andrew, either now or in the future. Has anybody ever rented a house before and had issues or problems, or anybody wants to take a question?
There's one there, Mark. I suppose
Oh, yeah.
A few top tips I would give is, don't arrive and then plan, because you're going to spend a hell of a lot of money in Airbnbs. Generally 6 to 8 weeks in advance is the kind of perfect time frame. That's mainly because properties will come on. You only have to give 1 month's notice here. So agents will sometimes know of refurbishments going on or tenants moving out, generally 4 to 6 weeks in advance. So we can't do much before that. If we know you're arriving in April, May, we can start pre-planning, but we can't do much. Be organised. So the more information, the better. That's whether you use us or don't. So if you have like a property CV, a pet CV, everything to send to us or the agents, it helps massively, because it gives a whole picture of who you are and how you're going to look after the property for the landlord. proof of funds is probably a big one as well. And that's not for us personally. It's the lack of a credit history in the UK. So like Mark touched upon, the legal legislation to get tenants out once they are in is very difficult. So I've had it from a landlord myself where a tenant paid for 2 months and then just stopped paying. So it took me 6 months to get them out and about £1,500 in legal fees. So tenants get proposed tenants get really frustrated of why landlords and agents are asking for so much information. That's why. And it's not normally people who are relocating. It's normally UK tenants who know the law. And then it presents a bad picture on everyone. So agents are very risk averse. So that's why they ask for everything. So it's just going with the flow, unfortunately. And once you're in, it's plain sailing from there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You actually have a lot more rights once you're in, aren't you, Andrew, to be fair, because a lot of people are, it's so hard to get past the gatekeepers now. It could be the estate agents, the referencing companies, as Mervyn said, to reference from current landlord. They should take notice of it as a record, but they'd always want to do their own UK proofing probably as well. Now we've had a few people of the last few months who are looking to pay 6 to 12 months up front, which should be phenomenal, really. It should be no problem at all. It should be a no-brainer. And even the last couple of weeks, I've had a bit of resistance from that because the estate agent's saying, no, we want people who are actually physically employed. Like, are you kidding? So for like every month for the 12 months, you could not pay your rent. You'd rather take that rather than a year up front as a lump sum. It seems crazy. It doesn't seem right at all. And it's probably because the estate agent is getting a commission on a rent guarantee, where they take a policy out where it confirms if you don't pay your rent for 3 months, you can claim your rent back. But that's a whole process to go through. So we have the battle against the estate agent, their own commission structure. If it's a head office commission structure, they're getting £20, £50 a go, whatever it is, times 100, 200 offices, etc. Then just do the math. There's a lot of money there. So that all the extra salons they can do. So that's why they do want to do their own references for a start. They don't always want to pay up front. If it's an independent agent, sometimes they can be a bit easier to talk to. But you just never quite know, because we're used to dealing with independent and corporate agents. We have to cut our cloth accordingly, don't we, Andrew? It's you get used to talking to them very differently. It could be a youngster we're speaking to who's 20 years of age, maybe, who can just about pick up the telephone and doesn't know a labradoodle from a cockadoodle-doo. You know, these different dogs we've got. When we've got pets, we try to say to people, just take some cute pictures of you on the lap or something like that, because it just kind of humanizes it, really. So people like to see that rather than just saying it's a Rhodesian Ridgeback or it's a Labrador or it's this or that kind of. They don't always know themselves, and if they probably haven't got life experience themselves of owning a home or renting a home, etc. So they're just salespeople. But we have to, if it's that 19, 20-year-old, we have to talk to them, or else we can't get past the gatekeeper. If it's somebody about 40, 50 years of age, I can be a bit tough with them, as Andrew can be as well. I can be a bit more commercially aware. They'll get used to it and they'll see the benefit of it. So. And what was the next
Mervyn, in regards to that reference from current landlord, yes, definitely. So your current landlord agent, if you have one, if you're not a homeowner, and if you're moving with employment, they are your two big checks. And well, other than your visa, they will generally, even if it's if you get a reference off a landlord even before you apply for a property, you can attach that when you're sending the application through. Obviously, if you're moving with employment, they will want to write to your specific employer to verify. So I was out with a client today he'd moved from Malawi, actually. He was a construction engineer, so working on JCB diggers. The agent was saying no credit history, he needs to pay 12 months up front. Now we've put the offer forward, we've sent his employment contract over, we've kind of put his property CV together, and we've agreed to pay in 3 month installments. So I'm fork out all 12 months in one go. He's paying 1 month, he's paying the next 3 months, and then he's paying kind of 3 months later. So there is ways around it, and I suppose it all comes in a negotiation with the agent. So that's I suppose something to take away, because you guys can do that negotiation as well.
When we see something in black and white, me and Andrew, we don't see something in black and white. We see it's negotiable. Everything is try to be negotiable. The prices are a bit tougher, but it's how you negotiate. We've had people before where they wanted to pay a year up front, but didn't want to pay a year up front. They wanted to pay 6 months up front with a year contract, which is what they don't normally like to do, estate agents. So we agreed. They both had new jobs, so they go through the probationary period, pay 6 months first of all, go through the probationary period, and then re-reference them at 6 months, and then pay monthly thereafter. So everybody feels a bit more comfortable. It's just trying to speak with the agents. If they're creative, we're creative. We can try to do something, but we just have to be smart. We're doing deals all the time, so we're coming up with different ideas. We have to be, because we have to be a little bit different, because if they're not likely to meet you, most of our business is dealt with people who aren't seeing people face to face. So it's very competitive for us, because it's not like somebody who works around the corner can see the house next door straight away. And that we have a lot tougher job, because most of our clients are coming from abroad and aren't here yet. So it's all virtual, video viewings, WhatsApp calls, team calls, etc., etc. But they are used to it. COVID taught us that, and that people still do take the properties, because there's such little stock, as you've all probably finding if you've been looking at properties. There's so little stock everywhere, which is such a shame for everybody. It was a few years ago, me and Andrew could be showing 10, 15 houses a day to people when they came over for the day, and we could find properties, and you had time to wait. You don't now, unfortunately. It's just it will change. It will change again, but it's just super tough at the moment. It's always been quite tough, but landlords, because landlords can decide if they want children, pets. It's crazy. We're getting 3-bedroom houses where they don't want children. Like, why would you rent a 3-bedroom house if you haven't got children or grandkids or something like that? It's crazy. Really, really is.
There's a question there from Gareth. I don't know if you want to answer it, Mark, or I'm happy to.
Yeah, proof of funds. So we're trying to get over on a certificate of sponsorship visa. COVID lockdown has forced our contrast savings. What's problems with credit starting in the UK? Gareth, would you be? So you would have a job coming over here on the sponsorship, I take it. Yes, that's correct. Okay, that's fine. Now, again, depending on the agent, if most will take it as if it's a new job or continuation of a job, that you're on a probationary period for maybe 3 to 6 months, it should be enough to get through a referencing company. Depends on, again, the landlord, how risk averse they are, or the referencing company and the estate agents. There's all these gatekeepers we have to keep getting past. We might get past 2 or 3. The rest we really have to try and work to try and push it through quicker than anybody else. So if you've got a certificate of sponsorship, that's great, because you're probably on a tier 2 skilled worker visa, which is brilliant. And the fact you haven't got money to pay up front, not everybody has to pay up front. It's nice if you have the means to potentially pay 6 to 12 months up front. People like the idea of that, and you have the salary as well. Just you feel more secure as a landlord. You feel very secure that they've got the money, starting a new job. But I do say, me and Andrew do say to these people, every one of our clients is moving thousands of miles to come over here. There's a hell of a move for them. They're not just moving around the corner. This is a real big move to people. So we're making sure that people understand what they're actually going through, because they get so many inquiries during the day. We have to try and, again, humanize it. And you are real people looking for properties, because if you're just as an email, it's just another email for number 2 Acacia Avenue, 3-bedroom, semi-detached house at whatever it is per month, and they've got 10 viewings booked up. We have to try and beat those 10 viewings virtually on a telephone call, making sure our clients are better. They're a younger family, older family, whatever, kids, dogs, pets, etc., etc. It doesn't matter. But as long as the agent can work with you, and again, we used to work with a lot of the agents and having to get to know some of them if we don't know them quite quickly. But that's all we do. Me and Andrew, we speak to estate agents every day, all day, unfortunately. And it's not easy, but there we go. So hopefully that answers kind of your question. It just depends on whether there's been other interest in the property or not as well. You might have children with a local school nearby, so you therefore have a need to be in that particular specific area as well. They can all look at that. So we look at every little point of where you'd need to be. So hopefully it would work out. But if you have extra savings to put down, it's just nice to have it as an extra, really, to keep them comfortable.
Yeah, touching on that, Gareth, as well. So on Rightmove and Zoopla, I presume everyone has kind of seen our 2 main portals. There's letting agents, and there's also online agents. So open rent is basically you leave your details and the landlord will effectively get back to you if he likes the look. So if it's via open rent, just make sure you explain or just highlight all the you can by amount. So that's where you can hopefully build a bit of a relationship as well.
Gosh, you sounded like a Martian back then.
He did, didn't he? He did, Sally. He did indeed. I was thinking the same thing. I've heard him though. He does sound like that sometimes.
we get load shedding in Manchester as well.
No,
we don't. Just manage that connection.
Don't believe him. Don't believe him. Occasionally just slows down. It tries to catch you up again. We're all trying to struggle to hear. But yeah, do you want to answer Sam's question, Eddie?
British citizen, my kids at the passport team. Will struggle, I struggle. Will I struggle?
Is it going to be a Dalek again?
I'm not. Oh, do you want to take that, Mark?
Yeah, I will do. Maybe hopefully I can be heard. Hopefully this time. So you have a job waiting for you. That's great. Okay. Depending on your salary, they tend to try to work on, if you're renting for, just say £1,000 a month, it's the easiest way to work it out. If you're earning £30,000 a year, they want 30 times the monthly rent. So as long as you are exceeding that basis, your husband will be getting a job very soon, hopefully as well. They will look to that. They will look at that into account. If you could get any kind of job very quickly, that would be great. I've got somebody late trying to come in now, just let them in. But if you can, if he has a job lined up as well, or can get a job lined up very quickly, that would be great. But effectively, they will only deal with the people who have a job straight away. So if you're coming over here looking at £1,000 a month with a £30,000 a year salary, you should be fine. That should be okay. And the fact you're a British citizen, kids have passports too, that's fine. The fact you have a spousal visa, as long as you've got the visa and the right to rent, it shouldn't matter at all. But as long as the job covers it salary-wise, all the landlord just wants to know is how risk averse they are, whether they will get the rent paid. So if you have extra money to put down, that's great. We don't expect everybody to have extra money. We don't at all. If you have it, it's just a nice to know. If one job covers the salary, if there's another job and there's savings, or any one of the three, it's just a nice to have. You an even better client than anybody else could be. So it's just nice to have that option of it there, because you don't always get that option when people are sort of asking you the question whether you've got one or two jobs.
Yeah, I think it's down for the landlord. It's two things, isn't
back
it?
On.
I'm off. I've taken the video off.
Okay.
Well, the landlord wants to know you can pay rent on time and you can look after the property. And generally, I've had a tenant in there in one of my properties for 11 years. I put the rent up after 4 years, just purely, but generally year to year I kept the rent the same because they're a good tenant. They paid the rent on time and they were looking after the property. So as a landlord, you from a landlord side, you don't want to rock the boat for the tenant either, because once you've got a good tenant in, you don't want a void period of a tenant moving out, and you also take the risk of getting a bad tenant the next time. So once you're in and a good tenant and showing you're paying on time, you're on easy street basically. Well, not easy street, but life becomes a lot more simple.
Yeah. And you say you do definitely have a lot more rights once you're into the property as well. It seems it's very hard to get into it initially, first of all, but once you're there, no one can just. I had someone the other day said to me, but the landlord lives around the corner, I don't want them just knocking on my doors. No, they have to give you 24, 48 hours notice to come into the house. Give you what's called quiet enjoyment. They have to allow you into the premises. You don't have to allow them in. If it's not convenient for you for after a day or two or something, you don't let them in. Simple as that. That's why sometimes we can't get viewings. And during COVID, it was quite difficult because tenants didn't want us or the agents in the house. So that really kind of helped us more from the video calls for people to view properties. And that's why a lot of people during the last couple of years take videos of the property so they don't have to go back into them again as well. So it's a big difference. Mervyn.
I'll let you take that one, Mark.
Okay, no, that's so fine.
I'm not too sure on that one.
No. So is the income being paid, Mervyn, into a South African account or UK account? South African account. Okay. Yeah, Sally says a similar situation there. So they normally will only take an income from a UK source, generally speaking. But again, if you have the means that show you have the means there potentially to pay, but not just more than the rental value. Again, it's a way of trying to talk. The more it will be a potential red flag, and we try to lessen the red flags. So the more red flags that come up, the more they'll just could go with somebody else that's a real problem. If you give the estate agent more problems, they'll just go elsewhere. That's where we have to try and sort of knock that over. But the fact you are having, this might be a more detailed chat on an email later, Mervyn, or tomorrow or something. If you're happy just to email me, and I can look at it in a bit more detail if you're okay with that. But from that situation, it's very difficult. They don't normally like to take, it's the referencing companies that won't normally take it being paid into a South African account. If it's paid from a UK base, I've got somebody coming over, they arrive tomorrow actually, they're being paid from South Africa, but they're opening a UK part of the business. Until it's opened and they're being paid in sterling, they won't take it, which is crazy. It's continued employment. It's ridiculous. It really, really is. But I'm used to this happening, unfortunately. And we try to fight with them as much as possible. If we fight too hard, they'll just put the phone down on us. So we can't, but we push as close as we can. You know this, Sally. So we push as hard as we can, as much as we can, but we can't push over the line. But I'll be the one closest to the line, bar nobody. So hopefully, but if you needed more of a detailed conversation, I'm more than happy to drop me an email or something. That's fine. So Gregory, a British citizen, work for a company. Are you online, Andrew?
I am, yeah.
Do you want to take Gregory's one?
Yeah. We had so for Gregory's, we had a family move just before Christmas with a very similar situation. So husband, wife, 2 children. They were moved. The husband was actually from the UK originally, but they'd been over in SA for 30 years. The husband was working and continuing to work on the mine in South Africa, but they were moving to the UK. So they did have to pay 12 months up front. The plan was his partner, his wife, to get a job once in the UK, but we managed to get it through. That was an independent agent, so there was a bit of haggling, lots of information sharing. So we got the photos of the family, and I think that they did have a dog as well. So it all feeds back to building that picture of who's going to be living in the property, and that's what the landlord wants to see. So we got it through on 12 months up front, and building a picture basically of who's going to be there. They've sold their home in South Africa, so they were able to pay that 12 months up front. The gentleman was still on the mine, and he'd be coming back once a month to the UK. And then Danielle, who's the lady, was going to be finding a job in the UK, I think as a carer, if not in schooling. She had some carer education, and she'd also worked in schools in South Africa as a teaching assistant. So I think, I'm due to meet up with them in a couple of weeks for a coffee, and not a braai yet. It's a bit cold, but for a coffee.
It's never too cold for a braai, apparently.
It's never too cold for a braai.
Yeah.
It's been snowing here today, so.
Yeah, well, you can light the fire and huddle around it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. So let's go with Sam. Straightforward question. We plan on Airbnb for a couple of weeks and then hope to find a rental. Is this going to be doable? It's a very expensive way of doing it, Sam. This is what we try to. This is why we try to say, if we can know a month, 2-3 months in advance, we try desperately to get you something before you arrive, because an Airbnb, 2 weeks Airbnb, just going to be horrific. Now, Airbnb is, just to give you a bit more of an insight, because I've had an Airbnb before. My daughter runs one at the moment. They're just because she's been traveling basically, but essentially a lot of people took their properties off of a rental market, and we doing it on an Airbnb because it's a lot more work, it's a lot more hassle, and changing sheets and servicing cleans and things like this. But if you have the time for it, you can make a lot more money. But this takes off the letting stock, as it did 2 years ago when the houses got sold for the stamp duty discount, where you could save £15,000. So all this stock isn't being replenished. That's the reason why there's a lot of shortage of the properties. I'm not sure we're having lots more people come to England at all, really, from that base that can afford a rental period. But if you want an Airbnb, if you're going to book an Airbnb, I'd try to book something that's on a very minimal cancellation fee. So you hedge your bets. I've got somebody coming over at the end of March at the moment. I just said maybe do a long weekend, but by then hopefully we should have found you a property that you shouldn't need to take it. But it's nice just to extend it a little bit, have a bit of a safety gap, so to speak. But that's what we really ultimately try to steer you away from if we can. You're more than welcome to do it, it's fine, but it's just trying to steer you clear of it because it's super expensive. What would you recommend is the best way forward? It's probably part of what I've been saying, but again, Sam, if you want to reach out to us, we can have a more detailed conversation about that. It depends on the timing of when people need to move, and not everybody can move. I had people last year call me in August saying, can you help me find something at the end of the month? In the height of the summer was just impossible for anybody to find something. But if we can all plan, as Andrew says, plan, we can, a month, 2, 3 months in advance kind of thing is perfect. We don't always have that. We'd have people, some here be probably looking to move towards the end of the year, which is great. The more planning you can do, the better. But we normally need to sort of kick into action 1, 2, 3 months before you're needing to arrive. Then it gives us that time, because in England, you have to give 2 months notice period, and you can move in the middle of the month. It doesn't have to be at the beginning or end of a month. I know that some people think you have to move like at the beginning of the month. You don't have to do that. So, but yeah, so Sam, yeah, please reach out to us. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo what Mark says. It's having Airbnb as a free cancellation up. But I also find that the stress, people arrive and then try and find somewhere, and it's kind of you're under pressure to try and find somewhere within that 2 weeks of your Airbnb. And bear in mind that once you find the property, it will generally take about 2 weeks to actually get the keys, because they have to do all the reference checks. So it just kind of it gives you a lot smaller window. So if you know you're arriving in March, you could have kind of people looking now. The perfect property might come up the week before you arrive, and just because you're out by a week and you can't get to view, that's where we can come in handy. And it's it's things like that. So if we were to secure that property, then you can cancel the Airbnb. It kind of works really well. So that's the general feedback I've had. I think you've had the same, haven't you, Mark?
Yeah, it is, and we both, Airbnb is kind of like a bad word and a great word as well in the same phrase, because it can solve a problem, but it's just super expensive, and we just know it's super expensive. So if you can avoid it, great. Not everybody's able to do it, but if you can, again, you have the chance to do it, then please do it, because otherwise it will just eat into your savings account. And also, if you're there for that 2 week period, you can only view what's available for the next 2 weeks. You've got to ask yourself, why is it available? Why has it not been let in the last 6 weeks when it was given notice 2 months ago? So you'll only get to see the stuff that's available now, which is quite rare for things to be empty. Again, there'd be a red flag to me. Why is it empty? Why has it not been let before? What is the agent? Are they lying? I trust no one by default, agency wise. I have to be cynical, unfortunately. That's why I'm old and grey. But I have to be, because I've got to try. You're our clients at the end of the day. We've got to try and cover our backs and your backs as much as we can. So there are some good agents, but also there are ones that are getting head office hitting them over the head.
Targets,
Anything else? We're getting up, I know, to sort of 7:45 in UK time. We'll try and keep it to 45 minutes, just for everybody to have an evening as well, if where you are everywhere. But if there's any more questions, if not, we could call it a day. Or if any other questions at all, you've got our contact details. Hopefully, if you've got taken a screenshot or picture of us, so you can get in contact with us. But it's being recorded again as well, so it's on our YouTube channel, apparently. Andy, is that right? Have we got a YouTube channel?
Yeah, well, it's more just to try and highlight kind of, well, obviously we're Manchester based, but people want to know what £1,200 gets you in the UK. So the link I put on earlier was that was Lichfield, which is just north of Birmingham.
Yeah.
So it's just a walkthrough of a property saying what £1,200 gets you. It can vary, obviously, dependent on area. So price can go up or down a bit, but that's a very standard 3-bed we've done a few standard apartments in Manchester as well. But yeah, we'll be adding content there as well, and just to try and give a visual of what to expect when you arrive in the UK, because we get, why is everything so old? Because our housing was built 100 years ago, and it's like, well, that's just how the UK is. A lot of the housing was built in the 1930s. So
yeah. So yeah. Sam, again, is like needing a dog-friendly rental. How hard is this? It's tough. It is tough. My record last year was somebody with 7 indoor cats. I'm hoping I don't beat that record, because that was pretty tough. I have to say, very tough. And it's just purely, not that we're not pet lovers at all. There's a lady I'm dealing with recently. She was just on the webinar, that has a retired guide dog. How better trained can you get than a guide dog? And it's as if it's like an elephant you're trying to get into the house. It's just ridiculous. It really, really is. It's crazy. But that's why I say a cute picture on your lap, or lying down, rubbing the belly, or just anything at all, just to kind of, just make it a little bit friendlier, not friendlier looking kind of thing. But a Labrador, it's just ridiculous. It really is crazy. But people, if you have 50 inquiries on a property, 20 people have dogs, 20 people don't, or more will have dogs than not have dogs, probably, or cats or pets or something like that, or children. And they just look for the easy, whilst they can, they'll look for the easiest route out at the moment, because they can. In a year's, 2 years time, we might be having the next laugh saying, oh, we'll have a choice of 5 houses, which one should we choose now? We can be the arrogant one. At the moment, we're having to sort of like, and we hate it because we're quite competitive with each other as well. We would just want to try and get something for you, even if it's something off the rent, or just something at all, or push the date back or something. We had an agreement on something we agreed about an hour ago today for one of my clients, where they're not flying over until the 18th of February, and it's been empty since beginning of January. Now, they'd normally want you in there within the next week or 2 weeks, because we're playing a year up front. We managed to agree 18th of February to save them like £1,500. Fantastic, because it's the right client. They're happy to wait for the right client, because they're going to be there for a year or 2 years. So fantastic. The client's happy, the landlord's happy. So it's all good. We've got some more questions as well. Andy, do you want to go for some of them?
No, people are leaving.
Just leaving. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had
our time. We've had our time.
Oh no, there's Sam. We'll need a dog-friendly rental, but I think that's the last one. Everyone's just thanks. And well, I suppose it's nearly 10 o'clock in South Africa, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
bad time.
But no, thank you everyone for your time and listening and your comments. There's been really good comments. I appreciate that. And hopefully, if you've got any more detailed questions, just ask us. Free to ask us anything at all. Happy to try, and if we don't know, we'll tell you, or we can try and find out for you. But hopefully, we just, that's why all these sessions we do with today, we're just with us. What we can do, pet relocation seminars we've done, moving logistics, household goods, schools. Andrew's wife's a school teacher, so that's really always goes down very well, because Andrew's really good on the schools as well. So any part of moving. And don't forget, every person we deal with as a client, we don't deal with English people, generally speaking, or British people. They might have British passports, might live in South Africa, Australia, Canada, or wherever, but most of the people we deal with are coming internationally into the UK. So all your questions and queries, small or large, they're not silly questions, as some people say they're not, because I'd be asking copious amounts of questions. I really would, if I was moving to another country. So feel free to ask anything at all. I have so many questions, Sam, so many questions. Right, okay, that's good. Excellent. No, I'm really pleased with the feedback. Hopefully it's been good. Andy, anything else to add, or are you off to have your dinner if you had it already?
No, the kids are in bed, and have dinner. So I suppose it's just, obviously, if you email or call, just bear with us, because we work on the ground. Like me and Mark will be with clients, so sometimes I try and reply in the evenings, but sometimes we play football or tennis, so it may be 24 hours after, but we will generally reply as quick as we can. So
how come time you got time to play tennis and football? I don't do that.
It's therapy, mate. Therapy for the children.
I'm too old now, unfortunately. My football days are over. So.
Yeah.
I'm just jealous.
True. So, but yeah, no, thank you for everyone for joining.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. It's getting quite late, and hopefully you found it useful.
Good. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye now.